gigantic bowl. The whole city is. Off to the west, the mountains rise 10,000 feet above the field elevation within a distance of 25 miles. And off to the east, 6,000 feet above the field elevation. So cumulus granite is a problem for airplanes that aren't able to climb out at a high rate. So often on departure, the airplanes just have to spiral climb right over the airport in order to clear the tops of those mountains before they could proceed on their way. Directly across from the control tower was another mountain. And you can see the NATO base just beyond the head of the air traffic controller there that's working in the airport. And I believe on that particular day, that C-17 was carrying, I think, our Secretary of Defense. We had a lot of VIPs that came into Afghanistan, particularly around Christmas time, because I was there through Christmas. A lot of politicians like to come see the troops during that time. So, you know, we had plenty. We had our Secretary of Defense, our Secretary of Homeland Security, Vice President Biden. The President attempted to come to Kabul, but the wind kicked up very high that evening. He was not able to fly, so he flew all the way to Afghanistan to make a long-distance call from Bagram Air Base to President Karzai. And of course, politicians from other countries, the British Prime Minister, the Spanish Prime Minister, there was just so many that were just there. It was really VIP central. I've never worked at a place that was quite so popular for folks to come visit the troops. Now, that job of training the air traffic controllers, the Afghans, was done through a partnership between 4 NATO civilians and 12 Air Force contracted air traffic controllers. We didn't have any Air Force air traffic controllers, any blue suiters in the control tower other than myself. And the training is progressing, but it's progressing slow, and I would say that's not necessarily, it comes an opinion, that's not necessarily because of the incompetence or lack of motivation on the part of the Afghans, so much as it is fumbling on our part, and ours being NATO, because when you try to combine 22 countries into an organization and get them to all make a decision, it is very, very difficult. And they've changed direction a number of times over the course of the years we've been involved in Afghanistan in exactly how it is we're to train the Afghans to take over running their own country. So it's not so much the fault of the Afghans as it is our own lack of a unified plan for handing this country back to the Afghans. I think we're getting better with that. I think we're determined to get better with that. This young man with the American here is Milad. Milad's only 22 years old, and he's known nothing but a war-torn country his entire life. And he's controlling traffic. He's a fully qualified air traffic controller there in Kabul Tower, and very good, just as good as any of the very experienced Americans or the Europeans that are working there. So I believe we will be able to hand this part of running the country back to the Afghans at some point in time when we train enough of the controllers like Milad in executing their particular job. Now the tower is outfitted with some new equipment and also some of the older equipment that's left over. This is very much like the equipment that we use in my control tower and any of our FAA air traffic control towers in the country. Boy, that went too fast. Where's my technical help on that one? Thank you. I'll skip most of the pictures and I want to go on into the part about whether or not there is hope for Afghanistan, since I've already started expressing some of my opinions about that. There is hope, I believe, for Afghanistan, and I'm going to set the stage here by giving you some facts about the country and a little walk through history since 1922, and then a comparison between what was occurring during Taliban rule versus the current government in Afghanistan. As already said, there's a country there that's about the size of Texas, just slightly smaller than Texas, with 32 million people and a life expectancy of only 44 years. And Afghanistan has probably the unfortunate occurrence of being right at the crossroads of Central Asia and Any country that's ever wanted to exercise power in that part of the world has usually stomped across Afghanistan to get there. The earliest habitation goes back as far as 50,000 BC, and Alexander the Great walked in there in 330 BC, and he was credited with describing that situation as easy to march into and hard to march out of. And since 1922, as I mentioned, it's just been continuous turmoil in that country. The British involvement began in 1839, and it ended in 1919, 80 years later, when they realized that they had a tiger by the tail and they wanted to back out. And they helped establish a king there, King Anamullah Khan, and this king introduced some reforms and attempted to end the isolation in Afghanistan, but he was deposed in 1929 because most of the Afghans don't want to end their isolation. He was succeeded by King Nadir Shah, who abandoned the reforms of the previous king, but was later assassinated in 1933. He was succeeded by King Muhammad Zahir Shah, who succeeded his own father at the age of 19 and reigned until 1973. But that monarchy was overthrown in 1973, and a republic was created but failed to establish adequate governance. And the Tsar Revolution started in 1978, and that overthrew the republic and implemented a socialist agenda. That caught our attention. He established atheism as the official religion, land reforms, and equal rights for women. The elite, the intelligentsia, and the religious leaders were imprisoned or killed. And the Soviets were invited to assist with infrastructure development in 1979. And in 1979, President Carter saw this as an opportunity to weaken the Soviet Union and began to fund and train Mujahideen fighters through cooperation with our good friends, the Pakistanis. The next year, the Soviet Union invaded with 100,000 troops. President Carter responded by boycotting the Olympics. The Reagan administration quickly came into office and continued the funding and training of the Afghan Mujahideen, and through the leadership of Representative Charlie Wilson, a Democrat from the 2nd District in Texas, funneled over $300 million in black operations money, which included over 2,000 Stinger surface-to-air missiles to the Afghans to help them repel the Soviets. The Soviet occupation lasted 10 years, and in that time it's estimated that between 600,000 and 2 million Afghans were killed. Many more were displaced. 6 million Afghan refugees fled to Pakistan and Iran, and then the Soviets withdrew in 1989. Charlie Wilson was quoted as saying, "The U.S. had nothing whatsoever to do with these people's decision to fight, but will be damned by history if we let them fight with stones." So we did. We helped. And in the process, we weakened the Soviet Union. And it didn't last much longer. It ended up on the ash sheet of history, just as Ronald Reagan had predicted. But this is my opinion, not that of the Department of the Air Force. This is where we went wrong. Not in doing what we did, but once the Soviets left, we left. We didn't continue to try to help these people. I'm going to make some comparisons in just a moment that you'll see what this may have cost us. Continuing with my history lesson, in 1992, the Afghans finally came to an agreement in the city of Pakistan called Peshawar, with an agreement